Good evening, everybody. It is that time. It is 8 o'clock on Thursday night, and it is time for Treasure Tales. As we have been telling you for the last few weeks, this is a very special edition of Treasure Tales. It's going to be a barn burner. And as we always say here on Treasure Tales, there's a million treasure stories out there. All of them are important, all of them have meaning, and all of them are unique. And we want to hear your treasure tales. So, what we're doing tonight, this is a Veterans Day, and we have in our house tonight, like I've been telling you, we're down on the Treasure Coast, and we got a couple of really, really special guests tonight. You're going to love them. You've seen them before, you've loved them, and you're going to love them even more tonight because we started cocktails at 6, dinner at 7, 8 o'clock. Who knows? So, we're going to run for as long as we run, and it's going to be a hootenanny, let me tell you. But we have, it's Veterans Day. We want to salute all the veterans. Both our guests tonight are veterans and served their country well, for a long time. And we couldn't be prouder that they are with us tonight. I myself am a veteran. I was in the U.S. Navy on the CVA 63 USS Kitty Hawk from 68 to 71 during the Vietnam conflict, the unpopular war, if you will. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to turn the camera around and I'm going to field the chat. And if you got questions, I'll see if I can get them to ask, but we're just going to turn it around. And we've got a number of people here, as I told you, in the house with us. I've got my brother from another mother, the Mumbles man, Low Tide Tim Naylor. His wife Tina is with him. My wife Susan's got to keep me in line, which is a full-time job, let me tell you. And Terry's beautiful wife Jean and Dan Graham. It's grammar time. You see, we're going to take a poll on that too. We've been talking about something. We're going to do a poll on that. And his lovely wife Kathy is in the house, and we're just going to have a good time tonight. So with that all being said, let me turn on here to see what kind of comments we got. Say hello to a few people. Jeremy, Finding Alabama, how are you? If you are watching on Facebook, please click above the stream for StreamYard, and that allows me to see your name, not just Facebook users. So if you will do that, that just gives them permission to use your name so I can see who it is on Facebook. Eric, how are you? Good to see you. Another Facebook user. I don't know. They hadn't done that yet. And Facebook user. Finding Alabama. Jeremy, good for you. Wendy Krause. Hi, Wendy. Hope you like that new detector you won a week or so ago. Eric Schaefer, Pacific Northwest Dirt Fishing. Two of the finest people on the planet out there in Oregon. Tiffany and Ronnie. And Philip Faircloth, how are you, my friend? Good to see you. Digging up the Carolinas with the Dig It Dude. Jeremy, good to see you. Glad you stopped by. You're in for a treat tonight. Gary Gross, good to see you. Gary Kerr, good to see you. This is Tom Becker from Ohio, and he got Terry's book from Phil, and he read it, and it's a good book. And yes, it is a good book. All of them are good books. And Fizz has got some good books out there, too. Y'all need to get them. You've heard of Stacy. Good to see you tonight. And you all heard me blathering on enough. So I'm just going to take the camera down. So bear with me if it's a little shaky. I'm an old person, you know. I'm going to kind of show you who's in the house. And then we'll kind of go from there. So let me grab this camera. And I will show it around. There is the important bunch right over there. They're the ones that run the show right there. You got Tina, that is Mrs. Mumbles Man. And there's the beautiful Jean. She belongs, Terry belongs to her, really. And there's the boss, Susan. She keeps me in line, maybe. There's Kathy, keeps grammar time in line. We got Rick Tumbleson. We got the grammar. And there's Low Tide Tim, the Mumbles man. And here's our guest of honor. That is Terry Shannon on the left and Captain Carl Fismer on the right. So, and yes, indeedy. Carl's holding up a Veterans Day ceremony. I guess you had that in Tampa this morning?
That's right.
So I'm going to set this down, get it situated here where we got y'all on camera, so it's good. And Let's see if I do it over here. Maybe it'll give us a little bit better picture. There we go. There we go. So we're going to leave it like that. I'm going to field the chat. Hi, Mark Fiorella. Good to see you. So, guys, just take it away and let's just have a good time.
Well, I want to thank you for inviting me. It's been an honor to be here.
Well, the honor was all ours, Terry. Let me tell you.
It absolutely was. It was the first time I ever had plenty of room to drive somewhere. I came across from Tampa this morning, and I got here several hours early so I could see some of my old friends in Sebastian. But thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Well, it's absolutely our honor to have you. Everybody has been just excited as they can be. When I set this whole thing up, I was talking to people about coming down. Now, you know, Phil and Jocelyn were supposed to be here from Myers Metal Detectors, but Jocelyn's got a knee surgery coming up. She's having a knee replaced, so she can't get around real good. So they weren't able to make it. And so these guys graciously jumped in and said, yeah, we'll be here. So everybody's been really excited that y'all are going to be here. And like I said, it's going to be boom. It's going to be what it's going to be. You know, we're going to tell stories and listen, everybody's going to jump in, chime in, and that's what Treasure Tales is all about.
Some of them are true.
Some of them are a little truer than others, aren't they? And then some are embellished, but that's okay. You know, all the good ones, if they're about me, if they're good ones, then they're true. If they're not true. And do not listen to the Mumbles man, because he tells stories on me that are not necessarily true.
I've been listening to some of them.
Yeah,
all true.
They're all true. Yes, indeed.
In my mind.
Yeah, in your mind. And most of them are probably true. Probably true. So let's just go ahead. There's Phil. Hey, Phil, he's my other brother from another mother. And I think probably John David is in the house tonight. I haven't seen him in the chat yet. But somebody just said Fizz the legend. Yes, I would agree with that. That is absolutely true. Pink Power Alley treasure hunter. You know Allison Walker from Canada.
I sure do. A lovely lady, a very good friend of mine.
She's a fine one. She is a fine one. So let's just say there's Joe Vizzi. He's a great guy. He works with Phil, helps him run the shop. So maybe we can get Phil out in some of our little adventures here coming up. You hear that, Phil? I hope. And so let's just let's get after it and start telling some treasure stories. So you guys go, whenever, jump in. Let's just let her flicker.
Well, the latest thing that's happened to me is the man that gave me my big break in this business, and believe me, I don't know what I'd be doing today if not for a man named D.L. Cheney, Dawson L. Cheney. And recently, his daughter called me up and said that her mother had opened the safe deposit box and found a bunch of coins and could really use a little extra money in these trying economic times. And I said, I could myself. But anyhow, I went over to pick them up, and I just thought I could sell them. That's what I do. I sell treasure coins. However, in 1981, D.L. Cheney and I were working the cabin site. We're in Sebastian today, right now, tonight. And anyway, we had, between the two of us, we had picked up over 5,000 coins. And somehow I just assumed that I could go to the safe deposit box and pick these up and sell them, but they all needed cleaning. And a lot of you people have contacted me about them, but I had no idea I was going to have to run them through reverse electrolysis and tumbling in the whole 9 yards. But they'll be all done by this coming Monday. And those of you that have contacted me, I'll give you a shot at picking up one of those coins that D.L. Cheney or I picked up in 1981. In 1980, D.L. approached me down in Key Largo and said, would you like to work on our boat? I said, are you kidding me? The research vessel Wasp paid for itself over 200 times. And D.L. said, well, you know, Jack Haskins and I went. And I said, Jack Haskins? My God. So, yes, I'd like to work with you guys. And DL and I worked with Jack for 2 years, and then DL passed away. And then Jack Haskins told DL Cheney, he said, don't educate him. We don't need this. Don't educate him. You're only training the competition. Thanks a lot, Jack. Anyway, he didn't like me very much. And then when DL passed away, I inherited the Wasp and all the gear and everything. And Jack Haskins called me up. It was 1983. And he said, I don't have a lease to work the 1715 fleet. And I said, Jack, you don't need one. You work on the Wasp just like you always have. And he said, what do you want me to do? And I said, you're Jack Haskins. What do I want? You tell me what I'm supposed to do. And that was the best year we ever had on the 1715 fleet. And Jack is that good? Anyway, Jack and I worked together right up until he died. His will left me his house, his car, 2 cats, and over 200,000 pages of archival research. And now everybody knows Jack's responsible for more Spanish treasure recovery than anybody, just due to his research. He could tell you where to go and start looking, and if you're lucky, you'll find it. And he's turned to all the big wrecks. He's turned to all the research, all the big wrecks. So anybody now that's looking for archival research, the King of Spain closed the archives. No more treasure hunters allowed in there. He realized he gave away billions of dollars worth of information, and he did, that's true. So anyway, I now have all of Jack's research, over 200,000 pages that he collected every trip he went to Spain. And that's pretty much the story of Jack Haskins, how I got started. DL Cheney, I'm selling the coins DL and I recovered in 1981. And that's about all I got to say.
That was quite a bit.
Thank you.
Now, it makes me feel a little insecure. I'm just an old retired cop with a metal detector, but I'm having fun.
Well, I've seen
Yeah, I'm doing pretty good. Yeah,
I remember a couple of years ago, we came down to the Treasure Coast, and then my buddy John David was with us, another guy, big guy, and we stopped by your house, and you were showing us all the 10 tons of rings, gold rings and stuff like that. And I remember this. I remember when I got home, I told Susan, I said, we're sitting there and I'm trying to, do this for YouTube. And I told Terry, I said, I'm a little reticent about, showing all this stuff on YouTube. You never know, some bozo will come along here and try to break in. Terry, I told Susan, he says, Terry just looked at me, he says, that's all right. I got plenty of guns.
I do. I'm a strong believer in that. I carried a gun, for 30 years, so I'm just not going to quit. So I had to have a gun permit to carry nationwide. And just before we come down this year, I bought a new gun. It was, a little 9mm Glock. And these new guns, you don't have a safety on. So I got a big mag made especially for the Glock. And I put it on my car. So all I have to do is reach down, grab the handle, push it forward, it cocks, and I'm set to go. And on the way down, my wife and I are involved in a car accident. A big truck come from behind and hit us, and we just went down the highway for a long ways and totaled our car. My son-in-law called me, and said he was so glad we were okay, and he said, you probably didn't even get a chance to draw. And he's right.
Well, you were in a spin, you just empty the mag, in a circle.
An accident like that is amazing what it does for your religion. It really does. But we were really blessed. We walked away, and we're off to another season. I'll be out on the coast. And actually, I just had a couple of good days of metal detecting. You know, I went up and I'm a firm believer that you have to find areas where there's been erosion.
Mhm.
And so my day doesn't start out where I'm going to go to such place or Turtle Trail or this. You know, I get in the car and I'm hitting every little beach and taking a look. And this a couple days ago, about 3 days or 4 days ago, I found a spot, and you can't see it from the road. You got to walk down the beachway, big cut, and I was able to take 3 rings out of there and a bunch of coins and just dug my little heart out. Had a good
Well,
time.
that's good.
Yeah.
Well, we got a comment from Gary Kerr. He says, if metal detecting the beach keeps you looking as young and healthy as Terry, then I've taken up the right hobby.
Well, thank you for that compliment. You know,
Wow.
it's
Very good.
Actually, a lot of it you attribute to Jean because she takes care of him and keeps him in line.
yeah. I used to tell everybody when I was a sheriff I was the most powerful man in the county, and I was until I got home. You know, things changed.
Well, that's the way it usually is with all of us. You know, you think you're a big shot. You know, I'm the cheese, I'm the man. Then you get home, you do what you got to do.
She's quite
you
a
know?
woman. A woman. I love the lady dearly. When I was in law enforcement, I shot on a pistol team and traveled all over. Went to Canada, all over, and these pistol shoots, and actually was pretty good at it. But she started shooting at powder puff, and I tell everybody, and it's true. When she started shooting, I quit drinking. You know, it's just.
Not a bad idea.
Yeah, I know. No, I'm not stupid. But
You usually think if you drink enough, you're kind of going like this. You're weaving, bobbing, and weaving, but ain't no difference. She boom, boom, boom. She'll lay down covering fire and take your legs right out.
Moving targets.
my wife has been very supportive, and I thank her publicly for the wonderful hobby that I'm involved in. You know,
Oh, that's great. What a nice thing to say.
I'm a incurable romantic, you know.
Okay. I'll take your word.
Well, I have to tell y'all, when we're setting this up, and I'm gonna tell a fizz story,
Uh-oh.
and this is the absolute truth, because we got a number of people here that will verify this. So, and Terry will verify it too. You know, when we were setting this up, I asked him, I said, well, you know, this is what's going to happen, yada, yada, yada. I said, what would you like to drink? And Terry says, well, I like Irish whiskey. And I said, okay, what do you mix it with? He says, water. I said, okay, good. So I asked Fizz, I said, Captain, I says, what do you like to drink? And he says, rum. I says, what do you like to mix it with? He goes, rum. So I said, okay. I said, really? Nothing? He says, maybe a little splash of water. So, you know, we got plenty of rum, and Rick was being a liquor salesman. He was kind enough, he brought some really good stuff to the party. So Carl gets here, and I say, you want rum? And he, yeah, rum. And he says, can you put a little Coke in it? And I thought, he must have COVID or something. He's ready.
Well, they asked me, and I said, well, I had to think of something to say, so I just said it. I used to, but I don't know how kosher this is to say, but I don't buy Cokes anymore.
Right.
Yeah, I don't either. I did Dr. Pepper.
That's good.
Yeah, I like Dr. Pepper. So what all y'all are working on? I know you're working on another book, aren't you, Terry?
Yeah, I'm a talker. I have a pouch in my esophagus, and my food gets stuck in, and I have some trouble with it. So you see me coughing it's because of that.
Okay.
You know that.
And if you need some more to drink, the Mumbles man will.
But anyway, I'm working on another book, and I've got quite a bit. You know, I've written 3 books about detecting, and now I'm kind of telling the story about my copy days.
Mm-hmm.
And I've got it pretty well finished, but I have to go back and clean it up. You know, I have violated a few civil rights over the days, and I was never politically correct. So that's what I'm working on now.
Well, it should be probably ready to go by the time you're on the Treasure Talk in March.
Oh yeah, could be. It could be. You know.
So what are you working on, Captain?
Well, we're looking at other books to buy. Friends of mine from Seattle who NovaRay is the name of their company, and they have a website called NovaRay.com. In my opinion, they're the best surveyors in the world today. They've had a lot of great success over in the Philippines for 30 some years, and their home had been in Seattle, but just found out tonight when I got that call. Excuse myself, I'm sorry I got the call. They just sold their property. They've loaded up a lot of ancient treasures. I'm talking some of the artifacts they picked up, 1,000-year-old.
Oh, bless you.
1,000-year-old porcelain pieces. And they're bringing them right here to Fort Pierce. They're packed up. They're on the road and on the way now. Give them a week or so. They'll be here. They're going to put them on display for everybody to see. And they've recently bought the 67-foot boat with blowers called the Judge Perez.
Mhm.
It hadn't been in action for 5 or 6 years, but everybody's gone through it. It's running good, and we're going to be working right here till December 31st. I'm the hit checker. They're the survey people.
So that'll be
Hit
good.
checking's the best job.
Trying to find some of the new wrecks or still some hits off the old wrecks.
Yes, correct. And we've already got some. I mean, they've been surveying, but now they're officially moving here, period.
So what's the final word? You get a lot of different opinions on the wrecks that have been found, the 1715 fleet. Now there were, what, 11 ships, right, that went
Yes.
down,
Yes.
correct? And one made it out and went back to England, correct? Or
Yes.
Spain.
Well, it was a French ship that was sailing with the Spanish fleet for protection. You know, they figure if they're sailing alone, some bad people might get them. But if they're with, especially an armed Spanish fleet, then they're going to make it all right. Well, what I was told, because Jack Haskins did all the research on it, he could translate archaic Spanish. He said that the French ship disobeyed the sailing orders, and that's why it was lucky enough to not sink. I assume it's true if Jack said it.
Mm-hmm. So they've only found how many of the wrecks, Jerry?
Six. Actually, they found the seventh one, but it isn't official. You know, the seventh one is apparently up by where I live. You know,
So
in fact, I think this coin come from that wreck.
Oh,
You know.
and there's still what? They found 6 now, you think? So there's a good number of them still that haven't been found.
Well,
And that's just 1715.
yeah, there's a good number of the 1622 fleet. The Atocha hadn't been found. But with all these new laws that they're passing,
Oh, well,
forget about it.
yeah, I
A lot of
understand
people
that.
say, where should I start treasure hunting? I'll tell you where, is in the Gulf of Mexico. Here's something that Jack told me, and there's no better opinion than Jack Haskins. There's over 100 Spanish galleons missing in the Gulf of Mexico. The orders were they leave Veracruz, and then they would follow the Gulf Stream to Havana. And it run pretty much like this. Here's the peninsula of Florida right here, and here's Florida up here. If you look on any chart, from Veracruz to Havana, Florida is the biggest territory of them all.
Mm-hmm.
Over 100 Spanish ships, and they were listed as left Veracruz, didn't make it to Havana, never heard from again. I would say get outside state waters, which is 9.5 miles in Florida, 9.5 in Texas, 3 miles Arizona, Alabama, Mississippi, and Louisiana. I'd say start looking for those 100 missing galleons, and you're not going to have the bureaucrats on your back for it.
Yeah.
But you realize you won't be able to pay tax on it.
Oh, bummer.
Wouldn't that be?
Yeah, that's terrible.
When you're looking for this, though, I would appreciate it if you work closer to shore, especially with those blowers, you know, because it'll pick things up, and then the old guy with the metal detector is going to do well.
Well, I'd rather do that, but every time 2 politicians get together, there's more laws against us.
That's right.
And
Well, ain't that
I
the
can
truth?
cite you where they actually broke the law. Well, I could go for hours on this, but we don't get treated good.
Well, that was the same thing that happened to Mel Fisher, wasn't it? He had all that stuff to deal with the government, and which brings us to another subject. Anybody that's going to be in the area Saturday, if you want a really, really good treat, it's at McClarity's Museum here on Mel Fisher's Museum. Yeah, from probably 10 to 3.
Yeah.
You're going to have Terry and you're going to have Captain Fizz. They're going to be in the house. You need to go by there, you look at all the treasure, and talk to the two legends. And you can't find a better way to spend a Saturday afternoon. Let me tell you.
Yeah, Captain Fizz and I are going to bond, right?
We certainly are. In fact, I think we already have.
I think so too.
We're the oldest guys left. I was given a talk over in Texas not that long ago, and the guy asked any question. This guy raised his hand. I thought he was going to ask a question. He said, "You know something, Captain Fizz?" He said, "You're about the last of the old timers." And I said, "Thank you for pointing that out. I really appreciate it."
You can leave now.
Yeah.
Yeah. The Native Americans, they revered the old people. They come to them for advice and wisdom. And I just don't understand why nobody's coming to me at all.
Well,
I almost hit my
I don't know what to tell you on that one. I just don't know what to tell you on that one. But you've been treasure hunting for a long time, both of y'all, and had tremendous success. And what's that coin that you've got around your neck, Terry?
This is the very first Spanish coin I've ever found. And I found it right in front of where we live, out on the beach. We had a 3-day storm. It just blew for 3 days. And I went out there and it was just phenomenal. I had a big 5-gallon pail. I had it half full of sinkers. I found a bunch of silver coins. I think 5 gold rings, and found this 1701 2 reals. The only one known existed. And I knew right away what it was. I put it in my pocket. I took 2 steps, took it out and looked at it again, and I got to tell you another story if you don't mind.
Oh, that's what we're here for.
But I was down, I have a partner, Jerry Pope, and he and I, he's younger than some of my children, but we do well. And we got into, a spot, and we're just digging a lot of sinkers, really excited about it. And nothing really good, but we ended up dumping our pouch 3 or 4 times. I mean, that much stuff. So the next day I go back, and I found a great 8 real, Spanish 8 real. I'm the only one out there. Jerry had to work, but there's an older lady sitting in her beach chair right in front of her house. And when you find something like that, you gotta show somebody. So I walked over to it. I said, "Look at this. This is this 8 real from the 1715 fleet." I said, "For an old guy like me, it's better than 6." She looked up at me and said, "My taste is chocolate." And it's just sick that I didn't stop off with a box of chocolate. I'm sorry, I'll clean it up now. I just got the look from Gene.
That was a good story.
It happened to be one of them is true too,
I might borrow that one.
Well, Captain Fizz, tell us about the story you were telling us over dinner tonight about the finding the 1 and 2 reals when you were diving.
Oh, D.L. Cheney to me was, my mentor, my hero. He got me started in this business despite Jack Haskins' objections. And we started working 1715 fleet, mostly right here in Sebastian on the cabin side. And he told me, he said, only bring back the 8s and the 4s. Don't worry about the small denominations. At first I thought he was kidding. I said, "Oh yeah, okay." And I bring back everything. And I'd lay him out on the gunnel, and we're looking at him. He'd pick up the halves, 1s, and 2s, the half and the 2s. And he threw them back over the side. And I said, "What are you? I'm gonna." And he said, "You're gonna what?" I said, "Nothing, sir." And then, so 2 years later, he had heart surgery 3 times, and the doctors had made mistakes on it that back in the late 70s, early 80s, and you know, it was just not a good thing. And then and we got arrested on the cabin side, D.L. Cheney and I, illegally. And it's a big court thing that we got arrested illegally. And then I went home to the Keys thinking we're shut down for a while. But Judge King wrote a big letter. I'm expanding a story you asked about, so you'll know why I hate them rotten. And Judge King wrote a 96-page, federal Judge King, a 96-page thing saying, leave these guys alone, they're working legally, And I'm down in the Keys at my house, and DL and two other, Johnny Barrier, go right back out instantly. I'm driving up, I missed his trip. Marine Patrol comes out, you're under arrest again. This is the second time. And they said, and D.L. Cheney said, Judge King they said, we're familiar with that. And D.L. said, well, then you know this isn't right. And then the Marine Patrol said, what can we do? We're only pawns, similar to the Nazis in World War II. Mm-hmm. It's exactly what it was. And they 5 minutes till 5. They handcuffed him so you couldn't get bailed out by 5 o'clock.
Wow.
3rd-degree misdemeanor, maximum penalty, $200 fine, no jail time. They had to drag him off to jail in handcuffs to spend the night. And a guy named Gene Lyon, another treasure hunter who's long gone now, called me. For some reason, he happened to be in jail that night.
And it wouldn't have anything to do with Rum or anything.
He called me, he said, Fizz, DL's having a heart attack, and they're laughing at him. Remember? Heart surgery.
Right.
And they thought he was just trying to get out of jail. 30 days later, he laid in intensive care, and then he died. And that's why I will never say anything good about any scum-sucking politician or bureaucrat. They intentionally did that. For what? Silver coins? No. Anyway, and by the way, we had been working that wreck and picking up silver coins, 200-300 a week and 4, but I got 508 coins one day, and they let us go. But when the day we found the gold, we found 6 gold coins and 3 gold toothpicks. And then the next day they arrested us because it was only the gold they were after. And anyway, that's my story.
Well, good. Wow. Well, anybody that on the audience out there, if you all have any questions, put them up in the chat, and I'm monitoring the chat. If you got a question for Terry or Captain Fizz, let's have it, and we'll just carry on. So,
excuse me one second. You had mentioned with Mel Fisher. I worked with and for Mel for 12 years, and he was in federal court 113 times. Anybody know? 113 times. The state or the feds would come in and steal all of his stuff and take it, and a lot of it would turn up missing. But so what? In one of the last conversations I had with Mel, he said, I've spent over $7 million on legal fees. Over $7 million, because everybody said, why did it take you so long to find it? Well, that's one reason why it took so long to find it. And they were only spending your tax money. So what did they care? and the big thing came up one time with Judge King, and he said, don't ever come back to the state, ever come back with such a flimsy excuse again. So, and then in the Supreme Court, last story here, Supreme Court, over here sits Mel and his attorney, and over here sits like 10 or 12 state attorneys, the Marine Patrol, the park rangers, the janitors that swept the floor, and everybody else from Tallahassee over here in the Supreme Court. And I remember thinking, I asked my attorney, I said, why would the state need a dozen attorneys there to fight Mel in the Supreme Court? And he said, they don't. But now those attorneys are going to put on their resumes, I pleaded before the Supreme Court and charge you $200 more an hour because they're cheating, rotten, dirty, never mind, but the rest of the sentence. And that's all true. That can all be a lot of other things.
Mel won every one of those court cases.
Yeah, 100. No,
He went 113 times and won every case.
No, he run 112.
Okay.
The last time they all got together in a conspiracy to set him up on them phony gold coins. It's a big story, but it was all done intentionally. And I called my attorney and I said, my attorney up in Atlanta, I said, that sounds like a conspiracy to me. And my attorney said, don't say that word. It's illegal. Don't say it. I said, well, what would you call it? He said, a conspiracy. True story.
No, that's really sad. It really is.
It is.
You know, it
Right.
just, and it's still going on.
Yeah.
You know, and what bothers me more, and I had a career in law enforcement. You know, I took pride in what I did, and I'm still very proud of some of the things that I have. But it just bothers me that they're getting away with it. You know, and nobody's doing anything. It's just so sad. We are supposed to turn over a better world to our children than we got, and we're not doing it. And
Not
that
even
bothers
close.
Nope.
Not even close. Well, you were telling us a story earlier. I was teasing Gene about, calling you Buford Pusser when you were the sheriff. And you were telling us a good story about that. Why don't you tell everybody about how you got the name Buford Pusser?
I ran for sheriff in Becker County because I didn't like the sheriff in the
We're at.
Becker County, Minnesota. And I won the election, and the first day that I came in, and nobody wanted me there. They afraid I was going to come in and fire a bunch of people, which is exactly what happened. But, one of the first cases I got, they called me up and they said there was a shooting. 2 people had been shot, and they wanted me up there. The state patrol trooper was on his way to pick me up. I run outside, the trooper goes in my yard, I jump in, car, up we go, 100 miles an hour. And I remember, I'll never forget that sight. I come over the top of the hill. Well, I'm the boss now, I'm the new guy. Over the top of the hill, and there's a body laying in between a trailer house and a house. There's a bunch of guns in the house, and the trailer house. They're shooting back and forth. The whole area is surrounded by all these cops that I don't know, but I'm in charge of them, and all I could think of is, my God, I'm in charge now. What do I do? If I could have faked a heart attack, I'd have been charged. So I go down there and I got a loudspeaker and I got the house disarmed. I put up some big tear gas shells and said I was going to blow the house up if they didn't go. And then the guy in the trailer house, who was a bad guy, he held up a little baby, and I didn't know what that meant. Then he held up a white feather. I had no idea what that meant. And he was shooting, And finally he quit
You
shooting.
knew what that meant.
Huh? Yeah, I knew what that meant. And anyway, he quit shooting. So I figured, and the natives were coming in, and I figured, I got to get this over, So I put on a bulletproof vest and I go up to the door, and just then my deputy comes along the side of the trailer and they threw a car battery out the window, hit him right in the head, knocked him silly, see, and I just lost it. There was a bicycle there, and I grabbed that bicycle. First I tried to kick the door. The trailer house doors are hard to kick in. I grabbed that bicycle, I picture window, and I battered out the window, see, and there's a couple of gals inside who were hitting me with these 2x4s, and it was so bad I didn't even realize. I dive in, I search the place, and he's gone. And I'm thinking, what happened? And I went out and said, are you sure he's in there? Which was really a stupid question because I seen the baby, I seen the feather. So I go in the back room, and where a long closet, and then there's a bathroom there, and there's a gap in there where the water heater was. So I grabbed the bottom of that panel, pulled it off, and there he's on top of that water heater. So I grabbed his feet, pulled him off, and the fight's on. And of course, I'm handling it from the bottom, So I finally get the guy subdued. I get him up to the door of the trailer. Now, all these people that are surrounding this thing have just seen their new boss pick up a bicycle, break through the window, dive in, and then all of a sudden come out with this guy. And the guy breaks away from me, and he's running. Me right behind him, and I tackle him. This is their new boss. And all of a sudden, this big Indian fellow come running by and kick this guy in the face. So I turn around and I tackle this Indian, and so anyway, the story went from a bicycle to a tricycle. And I didn't throw through the window. I rammed the trailer with it. And my nickname from that point on was Pusser, walking short. And even the judge
Walking short. I like that one. I like that one.
And my wife and I, about 3-4 years ago, we stopped at Kentucky Fried Chicken, and the judge was there. And I walked in, oh, hi, Pusser. I mean, after all those years.
Well, somebody said Jim McLaughlin said hello.
Oh, hi, Jim. Jim's a good fellow. He helps me. You know, on some of the books that I've written, there's a few punctuation marks that are excluded, and he helps me with those. Big time.
Well, I imagine there's a lot of stories. Now, you hunt, when you go back home, a lot of people don't realize that you're pretty much a snowbird for Florida, and you go back to Minnesota probably about May.
Yeah, about the middle of May, I go back. And I was down at the McClarty Museum, you know, before Corey took over, and we were talking to the ranger down there, and he was talking about snowbirds and how they all come down, and then about the locals. So he said, we got the snowbirds, we got the locals, and then there's Terry. And I looked at that as a compliment. You know, I just love this area down here. I couldn't have found a better spot to retire. And back home, I've done really well. There's a tubing river up there that I went in. I was finding 80 to 100 rings a year in that tubing river. And this year, I got into the old cellar holes. And that's fun. I mean, these old cellar holes, and people don't know it, but most of the time when they dig these cellar holes, you know, they're back in the middle 1800s, they dig two. Because well, one of them, you know, that they lived in, if it caught on fire in the middle of the winter, we have tough winters, they had another place to go. I mean, you know, so I had a real good year, you know, with the cellar holes and now I'm working on something that's just really exciting, and that's up north. You know, the Romans and the Vikings, they say, landed at Nova Scotia or that area, went overland to up northern Minnesota to dig this copper, and I'm up there looking for these copper spirits.
Yeah, you had something like that. You did the thing for when we first launched Treasure Tales with Alan Carpenter.
Yeah, Alan Carpenter. I went up with Alan, and we went to this one lake that, you know, and right on the Canadian border. And we get into the spot, and it turns out we were at the wrong spot, but it was supposed to be never detected. Alan walks right out to his neck. He scoops up his very first target, comes up with one of these, you know, copper spirits. These are BC stuff, you know. And he stands out there. All I can see is his head out of the water, and he's grinning. He said, Terry, he said, I just found something you really want. And boy, is he ever right. You know, but there's an island up there right by a trading post, and I want to get into that. But it's filled with poison ivy. So being a cop, I have access to these hazmat suits. So we're going to go with hazmat suits and detecting the poison ivy. So it's just fun. For an 80-year-old man, I'm having the time of the life. But I've done really well down here on the Treasure Coast. You know, for an old guy, I've done well. Not compared to Fizz here. I sit here and watch him and think, my God.
Well, he's done a different kind of. It's a different kind of treasure hunting. You know, people are just absolutely fascinated by it. And you may know these two. They're good friends of mine, and some of the folks here, KT and Sid Jones.
Good friends of mine.
Just wonderful people.
Absolutely.
And you know, a lot of people don't know that Sid captained the Swordfish, I think.
I was there in the Wasp at that, so we used to tie up by him at night. What was that funny story she was telling? I can't remember, if I was just going to have her tell you that. It'll come to me in a minute.
Yeah, she told a bunch of us that.
It was about taxes on the silver and the IRS.
Yeah.
You want to talk about a nightmare? That was it, because you think they did. Well, I'm not going to talk about, but she'll tell you the story.
Yeah, she's told us that you know, they got paid in treasure.
Yes.
And but they also got the W-2 to go along with it. So a lot of the treasure they had to sell to pay the taxes.
Most of the time on the appraisals, it wasn't anywhere near what you could get out of it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Was it higher?
Oh,
Yeah, I mean, Sid wrote a book, a really good book, Sweat of the Sun and Tears of the Moon.
Okay, yeah.
And that is, you know, it's the true life story of what it was like. Because a lot of people, they think, you know, you get on the boat and you go out there, you throw the anchor out and you go down and there's all this huge carpet of gold coins.
That's what
well, if it were only that easy.
I read that book and I said, I got to go do that.
Right.
Listen to you talk. I think it is that easy.
So, it's really a great book, and they're, tell really some nice stories and on each other.
And some
You
of
know.
them are true.
Well, yeah,
Yeah.
and Sid tells one on KT. They were both divers, and when he asked her, see, Sid started first, and then KT came later, and they were divers, and he planted the ring, and KT found it,
Mhm.
and then it had a note on it or something. Will you marry me? I think something like
She
that.
put it
They
back
tell it
right
better.
away and covered it.
It's hilarious. And the one that Sid told, he was down digging and he was diving and he found this big metal thing. And he's down there and he's whacking on it and fanning on it and stuff. And he thinks it's a cannon. And he's whacking on it because it's encrusted and stuff like that. And he gets a lot of it uncovered, and it turns out to be an unexploded bomb. And he's down there whacking the hell out of it.
Yeah, there's a lot of those. It was a practice range in the war. Yale Cheney and I, after we got arrested on the 1715 fleet, the cabin, we went down there in '82, and we did a lot of the mag surveys. Yeah, but thousands of those bombs left over from the war.
And that's what they were saying. A lot of people, like I said, they just think you go down there, boom, there you go, and you're out there hauling up the gold escudos and all that kind of stuff. It's just simply not that easy.
There's bombs along this coast here. Also,
Mhm.
I went up to Cocoa Beach and found a motor, and I knew what it was right away. And it was even had the fins attached. But I just got there, so I buried it again. I want to go detect it. So when I got done detecting, I dug it up, give it to the lifeguard. He took one look at it and called the cops. And the cops, they took one look at it when they got there, and they called the fire department. And the fire department got there and looked at it, and they called the bomb squad. And I'm standing there, so I found one, I think it was last year. I found another one, but it was a hole at the bottom, and so I just brought it home. And Jean said, what'd you find? I said, I found another mortar round. She said, what's that? And I said, it's a bomb. She said, well, where is it? I said, right outside the house there. And she was satisfied. I mean, she's just used to that kind of
It's
stuff.
under the hood of your car.
Yeah.
But there is something, you find a lot of 50 caliber stuff, but there's just tons of stuff out there on the beach. It's just an adventure every day. Not like you, Carl, but I'm still having fun.
Yeah, well, I worked in the Bahamas and we found hundreds of them over there too.
Did you really?
Oh yeah, the northern Bahamas, just north of Walker's Cay, there's a rock formation that's shaped just like a submarine. And they used that as a target. And I went out there, I picked up maybe 100 of those little bombs about that big, and some of them have coral growth on them. I took them to the DEMA show, Dive Equipment Manufacturer. I was selling them for $20 a piece in the DEMA show. Practice bombs from World War II.
Yeah.
The practice bombs that look a little different. They got the rounded bottom and
Yeah, and they were made to just hit and go like this, and then they'd sit just like that.
Well, they told Sid was telling the one story. You probably saw it when you were down there, Captain. The Arbutus.
Yes.
That nasty old
100
ship
mil.
out there that they anchored because people would try to poach their.
Yes, and they leave
The
two
wreck
guys
sites.
on there
Yeah.
24 hours a day.
Yeah.
Usually they went crazy after a short time.
Yeah.
But yes, I remember.
All the new guys went out there.
Yeah.
And KT had to pull her stint on the Arbutus as well, and they tell funny stories. They had the magpie. I think it's that bird they got, Dinkum.
Yeah, the macaw.
And macaw, and they still got him, and then they're coming on the show, the last show of the year, and they're going to bring Dinkum with them.
I was going to have that bird for lunch once.
Well, you probably would have had a better lunch because, from what Sid was saying, the cook he's cooking hamburgers with his spatula, and the big palmetto bug roaches crawling up the wall. He'd whack them and flip the burger, whack them and flip the burger.
That was 50 cents extra.
That's a Florida story right there.
Yeah. Yeah, a lot of people don't even realize what they are, but That's funny. So,
KT also told a story about the sardine can. Do you remember that one?
Yep. The biggest ring.
Yeah.
They were diving, and they turned the blowers on, and they had the big hole, and they just weren't getting much, and they had the J.W. Fisher detectors, and they got a hit. So she's digging and not finding, and finally keep getting the hit. So she's up to her shoulder in the side of the berm, so to speak, after the blowers. And finally she grabs a hold of this and she pulls it out, and it looks like a sardine can. Well, she didn't think there was anything to it.
Well, you know why? The lobster fishermen and the crab fishermen, that's what they bait their traps with.
Yeah.
I picked up hundreds of those sardine cans, but not like that one.
And then she said she shook it and heard something in it. So when they went up, and they were still in the water, but they were just on the step of the boat, and they opened it, and that was that big, huge emerald gold ring. Yeah.
Sure was.
Or a cross. It was a cross.
Uh-huh.
It was the cross. Yeah. So that's just amazing to me. Some of the stuff that they found. And I've got pictures of Sid with all the gold chains and stuff on.
I dream about that every night.
Yeah.
But they have a saying now with guys with metal detectors. If you find something, if you don't know, don't throw. Because a lot of this stuff,
Well, a lot of people, maybe hunting over here along the Treasure Coast, if they find a real or something like that, they may not recognize what it is.
They don't.
Because it doesn't look like a coin. It could be a chunk of something, and and it may be encrusted. Now, Terry, you would recognize what it would be.
Yeah, a lot of people will approach me and show me something that looks like a coin, and it's actually just slag that comes off the ships.
Oh, that's right. I've seen hundreds of those.
Yeah, and they stop and I said, now, I don't want to do it, but I said, if you bend a little bit, it'll snap real easy. That's not a coin.
One night a guy called me. He was a friend of mine from up north. He was staying at Trump's Hotel, and he was late at night. He was sitting out, and there was you can get in the water, and there's a ledge right there. And he's sitting there, and he's feeling this stuff with his toes, and he's picking up them slag things. And sure enough, and he comes in and calls me, and he said, I've been picking up these pieces of bait right there on the beach. I said, are you sure? He said, yeah, I remember when I was on your boat there. It's exactly the same thing. So I get out of bed there at Tavernier in the Keys at 2 a.m, and I drive up to Trump's Hotel, and he's in the lobby waiting for me. We go up, and as soon as I walk in the room, they were sitting on the dresser over here, and I knew right away what it was. I said, oh, no, please don't tell me that. But they
2 a.m, yeah.
Well, I was ready to go by then.
Real deal.
I thought it was because he said, I saw them just like on your boat. They're the same thing. And I said, damn.
I'm on my way.
But everybody that swings a detector has found something that you don't know what it is, and it could be something good. So don't throw it,
Well, like down here, you never know. If you find I found a bolt today, but I knew that it was way too modern. It was from a deck. But a lot of people, it could be something from the 1715 fleet.
You mean with threads on it?
Yeah.
Well, I found threads on a lot of pieces on the 1641 Conception side. Because I used to always just think, oh no, that's nothing. But now I always take another look at it.
Well, this one I knew was, you could tell it had the flange on it from where it went through the deck, And,
Galvanized.
yeah, and plus it was galvanized. So.
But you do find, bronze ship spikes out there, and they get big, and then they go right down to the very small nails that you use for the bottom
found
sheet.
a lot of that stuff.
Yeah, I've gotten a lot of it. Last year I had these little sheeting nails, and they're bronze. I found 141 of them in one spot.
Wow.
Yeah, they were worth supposedly a farthing in English money.
Oh, really?
And people, the ship workers used to steal them and go to the pubs would give them a beer for one of those little nails. And then the king got pissed and he started putting crown roses on the underside of the thing. They stamped all those in there. Not that that's an important part of history, but
Well, anytime a king gets a little pissed, it's all right.
Back up in Minnesota now, where
That's how they identify them.
when you try, the old trading post, and I got a Red River Rockstar trading post and several old home sites. And it used to, when they moved, they'd burn down their cabin to salvage the nails. The nails of that,
And reuse them.
Yeah.
We got one question from Mark Fiorella, a young guy from New York, Buffalo, I think it is. He says, when you were out on the boats digging, do other boats follow you to find your locations? Did you ever find that?
Yeah, and some of them cussed me out because there wasn't a damn thing there when we left.
But they're trying to get your GPS coordinates so they can go back later then, right?
Yeah, and some of the big name guys used to follow me, and I thought, Jesus, I thought they knew more than I did. But a friend of mine used to drive the snow plow for Buffalo, New York. And one day it just got so bad, he just climbed off of it, moved to Florida. I just thought I'd throw that in there.
Yeah.
When did they come up with a GPS coordinates? How long has that been? But I'm
First
pretty
ones
old
I
guy. I
can
used to use
remember
a
is about late 70s, was it?
I don't know. That's what I was asking.
I'm not sure either.
But it wasn't very accurate, I don't think, because
No,
of the
because
military
now
stuff.
it's one number more than it used to be.
Right.
I'm finding that out because I'm
Right.
going through all my old notes on the conception wreck. I think it was late 70s.
Well, it's amazing. It's just absolutely amazing.
That's the reason why they have sites like the Green Cabin Wreck and Corrigan Site and Turtle Trail.
All I had was everything I drew in the book. Like,
Right.
there's a telephone pole.
Uh-huh.
But I'll tell you what, we got dead nuts right back on that
Right on
same side.
Yeah. Yeah.
D.L. Cheney and Jack Haskins were the best ever at drawing those pictures. In fact, they'd say you'd stand on anywhere on the deck and you draw this, and then the next day, if you even close one eye, and when you go like this, that range moves.
Right.
And it does.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
You're
It
right.
depends which eye's dominant.
Make sure which eye you're using.
Philip Faircloth wants to know, Fizz, did you know Art McKee?
Yeah, I was the last one to break in with Art. In fact, in my briefcase, I've got a newspaper article about Art, and he signed it to me to Fizz, good luck and good. Everybody who's anybody ahead of me in the business broke in with Art McKee. Art, when I got the Lifetime Achievement thing in 2010 in Key West, you get your award, but you have to tell a Mel Fisher story that nobody knows. And I knew one Art McKee had told me years ago. So Art used to go down on the 1715 fleet, and Art's diving and Mel's running the boat. And believe me, those old timer guys always ran them wide open.
Mhm.
And I come up and say, Jesus Christ, give me a break here. Their coins are flying everywhere. Art McKee's on the bottom, and Mel's got the full boy. Art struggled up to the ladder, and he said, "Shut her down, Mel, shut her down." And Mel said, "What is it?" He said, "Well, there's coins blowing everywhere." And Mel said, "Are they gold or silver?" And Art said, "Well, they're silver." And Mel said, "Let them go." And that was the story I had to tell to get that Lifetime Achievement Award.
God, I wish I had
That's
that.
funny.
Yeah, I wish I was there.
Right. Where's that hole now?
You got these sites where all the ships are sank, and they got the coordinates and all that, and everybody zeroes in on them. But I truly believe that there's treasure the whole length of this.
No question. You can't go 10 feet that there's not something there that shouldn't have been there. Maybe, it's not worth it. Most of it ain't worth nothing, but there's wreckage all up and down.
Yes,
Well-
there is. They say the scatter pattern goes from the north to the northwest. But we get stuff going south and that, and this stuff drifts all over. You can find Spanish stuff, I bet you, from here all the way to Jacksonville.
Absolutely.
Well, it was proven, wasn't it, with the Atocha and the Santa Margarita, because it was 3 or 4 miles long, the debris pattern, wasn't it?
the San Josef in Panama I worked. I was there back in the 80s and recently. It's a 43-mile trail, 43-mile trail.
And that could happen a lot where they get caught in a hurricane and they bottom out on a reef or something, and then they can get carried for quite a period of time, couldn't they?
When all the heavy stuff starts falling out, suddenly that boat's made of wood and it's gone wherever the, yeah, 43 miles we followed that.
You know, a lot of people, you know, and my, you know, they hunt the popular beaches. And their theory is that there's a lot of people there every day. They're losing stuff. That's why they hunt. And it's a good theory. But there's so many people there. I've gone up to Cocoa Beach. You know, I look to the south. There's 4 or 5 guys with detectors. I look to the north. There's 4 or 5 guys with detectors. And I really spend most of my time between the beaches. And I remember one time I just got into it. It was a kind of a trough and digging steady. And I walked out. It was just a pouch full of coins. I think I had a ring or 2 or something like that. And I bet you I did better than every one of those guys in front of the popular beaches that day.
You know, they go to where all the tourists go,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
a lot of the really old, good stuff is possibly not where, you know, it's not very populated.
Yeah, I'm a firm believer in walking. I've spent a lot of, you know, at my age, I should concentrate more on staying close to the bathrooms, but.
Well, you know, you can always get in the water.
Exactly.
Don't wear a wetsuit.
I know what you mean. At my age, I should concentrate more on the saloons.
Well, you're only 69, Cap.
Thank you.
You know,
I owe you for that.
Did they ever find the stern castle for the Atocha?
I don't know.
I don't think.
Did they ever find it for any shipwreck?
I don't know. I had always heard that the stern castle was where the captain's quarters were, and that's where all the good stuff
That's
was
right.
usually
The king's
stored.
money was with the captain's cabin,
Right.
which was why I liked the wreck of the Conception so much. The records show that the king had so much gold they couldn't put it in the captain's cabin. It was actually lining the hallway.
Ooh.
It's never been recovered. I think, I hate to say this, but when I was there 36 years ago, I thought I found it. And then they canceled my contracts. And but now I'm going back in April to that same 36 years later. I just signed a contract a couple months
well,
ago.
I know you said you were working on that. So.
Yeah, well, we're going.
Well, good. I need to get you booked for March for Treasure Talk.
Update.
For an updates on what's going on. I know Terry's coming on, but you know, there are so many, like you said, there's so many wrecks out there from that you wouldn't ever know anything about that were laden with treasure, aren't there?
Absolutely.
I got a locket that I took down to Mel Fisher, and he said it come off a West Indian ship, 1628, that they were looking for.
Yeah, well, over 100 treasure wrecks in the Gulf. None of them's been found or worked.
Well, they would be, wouldn't they be loaded with the Mayan gold and stuff like that?
Yes, yeah. Anything coming out of Mexico is usually, well, no, it's all good,
Mm-hmm.
but usually it's good. And there's over 100 Spanish galleons lost in the Gulf of Mexico. There's nobody, because they all think, hey, the treasure coast, you know,
Yeah.
hey, we got to go there.
Yeah. Well, do you think that a lot of the ships that sank in the Gulf are out in fairly deep water?
The Gulf is mostly shallow, but there is some deep places, yes. I know for a fact where 2 of them are, and that's because the stuff's already being recovered,
Mm-hmm.
but nobody dares say anything because these 2 that I know of for sure are inside the 9.5 mile
Oh, yeah?
state limit. Yeah. You'll never get never, I don't care what they tell you. There's 3 phases. Number 1, you're going to file and they'll let you look for a wreck. You tell them what you're looking for, and if you find anything else, they own it and they supervise your work. Number 2, you find something, then you can identify, and if you identify it as your wreck, Then you go to number 3, which is salvage it. And they've 22 years, they've never given a salvage. They let you find, just like that wreck that they gave to France recently up by Canaveral.
Yep.
Those guys did everything legally like they said they're supposed to do, and then they stuck it right up their butt. And they gave the wreck to France. The France ain't over here working it.
No.
They're gonna spend money doing that? Are you kidding me?
Well, I think in the Gulf, I know I used to live up in the Panhandle, in the Big Bend area.
There's wrecks up there that are
And-
good ones.
Yeah, because I mean, we, going fishing, we'd have to go out 30 miles to get in 40, 50 feet of water,
Mhm.
So, and it was like that all along in there. I think it's fairly shallow, even off Tampa, isn't it?
Yes.
And then even you get down more into South Florida, Venice, Fort Myers, Naples, it's shallow quite a ways out as well, isn't
Right
it?
off Sarasota, and we're finding stuff somewhere off Sarasota. And it's,
Might be, sir. What are them coordinates?
Yeah, what was the coordinates again?
here's the numbers. Right here.
We'll just follow you.
We've got research on a wreck, 1792, with a lot of gold on it. The problem there is, it looks like every shrimp boat has been dragging through that area for
Mhm.
over
For a long
100 years.
Yeah.
Right.
But we're picking up a little bit here, a little bit there. But I'm hoping once we get into the gold, it'll be a thing. The wreck of the El Cazador, all 500,000 silver coins, all stuck together. And so when they found that, the coin clumps were coming up in the nets. But see, gold doesn't do that.
Mm-hmm.
So there's not going to be any gold in clumps coming up, which makes it harder to find this one wreck. Should I charge for lessons or?
Oh, sure.
Absolutely.
I'd send a bill.
I'll send you a bill.
Padre Island.
I mean, you can send me a bill. I ain't gonna pay it, but I might send you a check.
I want to get on that
But,
boat.
Right.
we got a question from Ronnie and Tiffany Calhoun, Pacific Northwest Dirt Fishing. They want to know if you ever looked for any shipwrecks in the Pacific Northwest, or do you know would there be any?
The answer is no, I haven't looked. Jack may have research on some if there are, but I haven't dug it. I've got over 200,000 pages of archival research about Spanish galleons. And, I've read maybe 3 of them because I can't read archaic Spanish, but the ones that Jack has translated, no, but there might be.
Well, wouldn't it be more ships from the Orient up in that area, possibly?
There might be, when I went down to, I'll tell you where I went. I went down to Costa Rica once and got into a lot of strange treasure things. And one of them was about this temple with the money. And when I got back, those people, first they were digging a hole and they dug up a gold pre-Columbian statue that weighed 1.5 pounds. And laying right there by it was an ancient 2,000-year-old bronze Roman coin. And they brought them both. I have pictures of the bronze coin. But what was odd, I went back in 2012 to Panama on the San Josef. And we had like 15 divers all. First coin to come up, I found another 2,000-year-old bronze Roman coin. Jack Haskins said the Romans, the Phoenicians, the Chinese, the Vikings, they were all over here long before Columbus ever showed
Yeah.
up. They were all.
Well, you proved that, Terry, up in Minnesota with some of that Viking stuff you've been finding.
Yeah.
With the Minnesota Beach Boys. Those guys are a
Did
hoot.
you find any little birds? Because they're made out of copper, right?
No, I haven't. No, I haven't found any of that copper contra stuff
These
yet. I just
little
started.
copper things came from the mouth of the Bradenton River. And I'm telling you, it reminds me of stuff those guys up in Minnesota are telling me they're picking up. But I don't know. And also I have a picture showing when the water was low in the Mississippi River, and the Viking ship supposedly is sunk there, and the bowsprit is sticking out of the mud.
In our area, we have what's called these runestones too.
I saw some of those.
Yeah, and so there's no question that they're there. You know, our history is wrong. You know, it's just, and I'm really excited about what I'm going to be doing up here. And well, the one spot is an old, you know, a lot of copper cards in there. And then there's a trading post from the old trappers, you know, and then a lot of modern people come in their houseboats and camp there at parties. So, geez, you got everything. You got modern stuff. You got the
I could get
trading
into
post.
that. Parties? Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Sorry. What, back a party in Treasure Hunt?
Give me a
exactly.
call.
Let me think about that.
But I got a question of it. I heard that Spain went to the World Court and said that these wrecks of theirs, there were soldiers on them, and you know that, so they're actually a graveyard, and they're supposed to be.
Well, of course they said that. That's because some of our politicians told them to say that. The truth is, it was never distinguished if a boat sinks. In fact, my cardiologist said that's in ancient Jewish scripture. He told me that, and I said, get me a copy of that. It's about admiralty law. If your boat sinks, you own that boat. That's your boat, and you might say, I'm going to try and raise it, or I'm going to try and get stuff off of it. And as long as you try to do that, you own it. But when the day comes when you say, heck with it, I'm leaving, then I can step up and say, I'd like to try that. And I can get an admiralty claim on that. Admiralty law means that that's mine as long as I'm working. If I quit, somebody else can do it. A couple of politicians didn't like that law. I don't know if I should name them or not, because you probably have fans of theirs. Famous politicians said, we don't like admiralty law, so we're going to change. And they changed it, just like they didn't.
Well, is it fair game? You know, can you go if you discover a new Spanish ship?
It's supposed to be.
It's supposed to be. Is it?
Not well. The King of Spain is claiming them, and he ain't letting nobody else in the archives to. No treasure hunters can come to Spain.
Yeah, and I heard that there's no more research or anything. Yeah.
And they actually sent a whole bunch of C-30s aircraft over to Sarasota to pick those coins up. And the headline said, Spanish Air Force arrives, and there were our C-130s that we gave them.
Mm-hmm.
I used to jump out of them C-130s. Yeah, and it tried to make it sound like, Jews, they're so great, and they're coming over to take their money back. It was all illegal and stealing.
Was that the Odyssey? Was that the Odyssey?
Yeah.
When they found all those coins?
And they did, and they had
They hid behind the assumption or the fact that it was a military ship, and military ships are never abandoned by the government, according to what the interpretation of the law was.
Well, that's true, but that's all new, because it didn't used to be. It just said if it sinks, it sinks.
Right.
And you own it until you leave it.
Right.
And then somebody come over, hey, let's say they're military ships. And,
Right.
But if any boat had a cannon on it, merchant ships used to carry cannons. But no, it had a cannon. Hey, that means it's military.
It's a military ship.
Well, they had to defend themselves, didn't they, from the pirates and stuff, right?
Yeah, well, I've got one good wreck in Florida up in the Panhandle that the research even says the best merchant ship in the fleet, and it has 12 bronze cannons on it.
Mm-hmm.
Well, somebody said here, poor Fizz, another rum, so the stories keep coming.
And some of them are true.
It doesn't make any difference if they're true or not true. But, and somebody says, remember to hit the like button for these legends. I agree with that.
What's her name?
Her name is Tiffany. She is out in Oregon.
I have friends out there, it's snowing in Oregon, isn't it?
I don't know, Tiffany, is it snowing in Oregon? They live kind of on the coast in the Goonies land. I think Mumbles will pour you another rum.
Ready for another?
You talk me into it.
Where your hard self is.
Yeah, I tell you what, now Terry, quit twisting his arm over there.
I should be stronger.
Well, she said it's raining hard here. They've been having the king tides out there too, a lot of storms.
We're supposed to be having some weather coming in this weekend.
On that Saturday?
Yeah, I tell everybody, I'm the only guy down here in Florida that comes down to Florida that prays every day for bad weather. I want the bad
Well, if you
weather.
get any tips, our last day hunting will be Sunday.
Okay.
So if you got any tips, just text me, and we're gonna go out and hopefully we'll get at least one good day of detecting in.
Right.
Before
you get all the holes done. Don't call us to fill them in.
Well, this is probably about an hour for Terry down here. He may not come down here to hunt,
Yeah.
but he'll give us some tips on where he thinks we ought to go.
So Terry, with the king tides we had last week, from what I saw from Tampa, looked like the coast was being tore up really good over here.
When I got down here, I went on the beach right away, and when they put in the renourishment sand, this spring, they bragged that they're actually going to extend the beach. So they probably put in twice as much as they normally would. And the sand had washed in, you actually had kind of a hump, over. And now that's mostly gone, but they're still back into the nourishment sand.
Yeah,
But it's getting close to where the dunes are. And we need that to happen. But what's happened is it's gone up high, drug out that new sand, and then spread it out this way.
Right.
So it just covered up, when you get down deep, it's covered up a lot of stuff. But, 2 days ago, I was right down in the coquina. I pulled 2 rings right when I come up, pieces of coquina in my scoop along with the rings. So there's always a spot or two along the coast that are open up.
Mhm.
Everybody talks about the cuts, the winds come out of the north or northwest and they cut the beach. But when you got the onshore winds, you've heard them, advertise about riptides. These riptides form bowls, and they're better than the cuts.
It pulls the sand out.
It pulls the sand out. The waves are coming in and it kind of joins together and pulls it out. And they say I'm right in the middle of that with my detector, and it'll work its way right back. And I have done well. There was one just north of us, several years back. I pulled 11 rings out of one little.
Wow.
When you get down there in that area where they are, and the majority of people, if there's a foot of sand, their detector, the way they've got it set, is not going to hit them. And so you got to get some of that sand gone. I know pretty soon I'm going to be getting the new Impulse AQ. Should be ready.
I field tested that. That's the machine. That is a good
And
machine.
I should be getting one in the next couple of weeks. But I'm really excited too about the Deus 2.
Yeah, I hope you get one of those also.
Well, I've already told Phil I want one.
Yeah, Deus gave me one of their other detectors, and I went back to the trading post and it just opened up a lot of stuff.
There ain't nothing like that Deus.
And it's light, but you need the multi-frequency on the beach.
Yep.
Mineralization.
So it's going to be very interesting. Very, very interesting. Well, you don't do much metal detecting on the beaches, do you, Ken?
No, I never have. I've done some, but especially like if it was a bad day and we couldn't go out and blow. That's how I met the guy that threw the coins back in, and I was at a loss for words. But what I should have said was, "Where exactly did you throw them?"
Yeah.
The pulse metal detecting is absolutely the best thing that's hit this industry. And it was late 70s. A man named Lee Harding built his own machines in the diesel exhaust pipe about this big, and you strapped it to yourself, and it had a thumper on the, and it had an LED light, a 7-inch coil, and that was ass kicking this machine. I didn't have no money. This was in 1980, and they needed they were selling them D.L. Cheney owned one that I used to borrow, and they wanted $4,000 cash for a Lee Harding pulse machine. But I scratched up every cent I could get and begged, borrowed, steal, and I bought one. 4,000 cash in 1980 for a pulse machine. First time I jumped in the water, I got 175 eighths and fours. And so, was it worth the money?
It's well worth the money. You know.
Lee Harding was a radar technician for Eastern Airlines, and a great man. And since he died, and so I surrendered my machine to two of the big name metal detectors. I better not say them. And
You can say them.
Their engineers took my Harding metal detector apart, and when it was all over with, they told me, I can't figure it out. But one of them said, "Did this guy work on radar equipment?" And I said, "Yes, he worked on radar for Eastern Airlines." But they never were able to figure out his machine.
You know, that's what I did in the Navy, radar.
Oh, do you want to look at my radar?
I was in radar.
I shut a radar one time, you know, you stand on a rubber mat,
Yeah.
you know, and when I was gonna close it up, I leaned against the radar, and it actually split all my fingernails, and knocked right across the room.
Damn.
Blew his fingers off.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, from what I understand, Fisher's got it locked in with this one. You know, it really goes off on the gold, and it does some discrimination. So I'm not looking forward to getting it.
Fisher on your shirt.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
When Jim Llewellyn was CEO there, I worked with Jim. I traveled with Jim. We did lots of shows together. And after he died, it just seemed to me that the company went a little bit downhill. I had all the input on the impulse machine that they came out with. I was the first person to find treasure with that. And I was the first person to find treasure with the 1280 machine that they had.
Fisher makes some great machines, and I'm looking forward to getting this one. And we have a question from Allison Walker, and she wants to know, what detectors are you both swinging, and what is on their wish list if they were to get a new one from Santa?
Maybe I should answer that first.
Yeah.
I would want the AQ, and I'm supposed to be able to get one, and then the new XP Deus with the multi-frequencies.
Yeah,
it's such a light machine. I have arm problems anyway, and you know, it's a proven machine.
Yeah, that's what both the Mumbles man and myself already told Phil. I want
it. Fisher called me several times, and you know, I field tested it, and then he come back with very good questions. You know, and one of the problems I had with it is when with the larger coil, you know, I couldn't keep it flat.
Right.
You know, and if I raise it up, it would make a noise in each
false.
end.
Too
False. And
yeah.
You know, and they're working on it. So I
yeah,
think
that's what they telling me, that you know they pretty much got all that ironed out, and they're ready within the next couple of weeks to release it. And so I'm first on the list.
I'm excited about that machine.
So it's going to be
Right behind you.
it's going to be a really good machine, I think.
Yeah.
And then I'll get of course the Deus too. You know, I got to have it.
Does your wife know of all of this?
Oh yeah, yeah.
I'd be leaning towards the same thing, because I don't know. The biggest coil I used, and it was only 7 inches.
Right.
But my beach days are way behind me. But from just what you said, I would try that myself. And as a matter of fact, we're going to need some beaching machines to start finding where the salvage camps used to be on the land.
Well, just call me in the Mumbles man, and we'll be there.
This is probably what I'm going to think about. Just because you said that, I would probably go with.
Yeah, because the Impulse AQ, you can get an 8-inch coil as well.
Yeah, I tried both coils, and I had no problem with that, but I could keep it flat. You know.
See, I kind of like the smaller coil.
And when it hit, it was a solid hit. You know, or I'm having trouble with the other pulse
Yeah.
machine I got.
Yeah.
I'm not getting that solid hit.
Yeah, because I used to always use the Excalibur, and I like that 10-inch coil. But like on the Deus, now, you know, the 9-inch, I love that 9-inch coil.
Mhm.
And then I'll have the 11-inch coil. But in the water, I like the smaller coil.
Yeah, smaller coil. Yeah. Back in the river, there was on the Tubing River back in Minnesota. Was a small dam there, and when they went over the dam, they tipped over and they lost stuff. And I went up there with my Excalibur with an 8-inch coil and detected there, and I found a ring and some coins and stuff like that. Then I took an old Sovereign with that small 6-inch coil and waterproofed it. Went back up there 2 days later, and I took 11 rings out. My wife is wearing one of them right now.
So Genius, she gets the benefits of all the rings. I'll tell
Were
you.
my initials on that by any chance? I think they were.
I've had 2 occasions when I'm down on the beach, and I found a ring. Beautiful. I remember last year, it was an emerald ring. I think it was an emerald. Not an emerald, red one. What's that? A garnet or a ruby?
Ruby.
Yeah. And I walked down and I'm rinsing it off. And I look and I see her coming. So I hold it in my hand, and she gets up to me and says, "What did you find?" And I said, "I found this ring." She puts it on her finger, fit perfect. She says, "Thank you," and she's gone. I never even got to put it in my pocket.
Well, I wish I could give you some advice, but I better keep my mouth shut.
Actually, it makes my day. It makes my day. That woman has earned everything that I can give her, by guys. But I enjoy telling people I don't get to keep that good stuff. And they said, "Well, why not?" And I said, "Well, why take?"
Of course, you don't get to keep it.
Yeah.
No, it wouldn't pay. It doesn't pay to.
What are you gonna do with it anyway?
Yeah.
Well, I'd rather give it to her than the government.
Yeah.
Big
Get
time.
10 cents on the dollar for it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
D.L. Cheney and I found a 10-carat black amethyst, 22-carat gold ring at the Bureau site. And for some reason, the governor thought he should have that.
Mhm.
And that was the last we saw of it.
That's just so wrong. It's so wrong.
It's really sad sometimes what happens, with that kind of stuff. And we find, a lot of stuff. Anymore though, it doesn't seem like they buy anything good anymore. They're buying this cheap old tungsten and stainless
They even got
steel.
rubber rings now.
Yeah. I said, "Come on, pony up some cash, get up something good."
We're changing history also. A lot of stuff didn't happen according to the new schools and that stuff.
Yeah. Yep.
But myself, I personally, and I think you are too, we've been blessed, that we did something that's just been fun.
Yes.
I get up every morning. When we first come down here, we had a 5th-wheel camper. We were parked right down by the beach, and we were right by the staircase. We walked down the beach, and there was about 6 or 8 guys every day come down and had their coffee in the morning and BS back and forth. And I'd be up all excited about going out there with my metal detector. And they thought that was the funniest thing, and they made jokes about it and stuff like that. All of a sudden, they started to realize that I was bringing some pretty neat stuff back, see, and that, they quit laughing, and now it stopped by, "What'd you get today? What'd you get today?" And us. And then Jean, my wife, was with a group of gals or playing cards or something like that. And they told Jean, they said, that alcoholics or drug addicts, they have interventions for them. And they should have one for Terry. He's so addicted to this metal detector. And I come back that day and I found 2 gold rings that were just beautiful. And I walked in to show them that, and the girls canceled the intervention and put in one.
Send you back out.
Yeah, exactly. I found a real nice ring. I come home and I give it to my wife, and I'm really excited. It really pleases me. And I said, "I'm going to go out tomorrow." I said, "If you don't mind." She said, "You can go right now." Wonderful lady. Very supportive.
Oh, that is funny. That is funny. Well, Susan, she is constantly amazed when we go out about all the money, coins and stuff, just clad or whatever, and even the jewelry. She says, "I cannot believe all the stuff you guys find." And it's constant all the time.
Well, it's going to change now, though. They've got these kiosks instead of the parking meters, and that'll change.
Yeah.
But the treasure's still there, and we haven't even scratched the surface of it.
That's right. In fact, one time, a question that comes up often is, how much do you think is left, value-wise? And I have no idea, but I asked Jack Haskins, and if you ask the guy who knows more probably than anybody about it. I said, Jack, what do you think is left out there? He said, I've been asked that a lot. He said, as near as I can figure, all of us treasure hunters together in the whole world have not come to 2%.
Probably, yeah.
And that's why they're passing so many laws against it.
Yeah.
Well, how many years do y'all think that the Spanish were over here looting or
More than 300.
wherever they were, getting all the gold and stuff like that?
300 plus.
And how many of the ships didn't make it that were never recorded being lost because they didn't keep records or whatever?
Yeah, well, there's 5 to 6%, but then you'd have to know how many. But just the fact that there's more than 100 of them just in the Gulf of Mexico, that should give you an idea. They had treasure fleets for more than 300 years. Some of those fleets, 2 ships. Some of them over 100 ships. I'll try to picture all them colorful sails and flaps, and the Capitana led the fleet. The Capitana, the main ship for the king. And then the second in command was the Alamiranta. And I often thought I wouldn't want that guy's job for anything. The Alamiranta's job was to keep all the other ones in line and shoo them along. Hey, get good one. And it had to sail everywhere just to make the fleets keep going. And I can't imagine what all the colorful sails and flaps must have looked like in Havana Harbor. You can imagine getting over 100 ships ready to sail back to Spain.
Now, when you were finding some of the wrecks, I know that KT and Sid have said that they found, like dinner plates and stuff that still had some of the food, like a fish bones or stuff on it and utensils. Did you ever find anything like that, Ken?
No, I haven't, but I would say that's possible. I picture myself being in the storm starts and you feel the first, and a lot of times you'll say, okay, well, no, let's go ahead and eat. And then 5 minutes later, the shit jumps right on top of you. But everything is possible. And my guess is everything happened. You had more than 300 years of this going on.
And just tons of ships too, I would imagine.
Yeah, absolutely.
And a lot of it would be in the Straits of Florida because they were coming from South America, Panama to Cuba and to stage before they headed back.
That's what they did. But when you figure that more than 300 years and over 100 ships lost just from Mexico, it's a small number, 5-6%. Who knows?
Another thing, all these ships, most of the stuff ended up on shore. And you had the natives that were gathering that stuff up. So there's a lot of spots inland.
Oh yeah, the Indians were all over. If they were close, the Indians took everything that was usable, and it may not necessarily have been big bars of silver. They take the lines, anything that they could use in everyday life.
Well, that makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
And maybe they took some of the silver and some of the gold to make trinkets or whatever. But to them it would have no value other than being pretty.
I've seen gold coins off Indian mounds bent in half.
Well, I imagine you guys have seen just a fair amount of strange stuff because you just never know what's gonna.
Every Saturday night.
Well, yeah.
About 3 a.m, right?
That's it.
You were at the same spot.
Well, the natives were very superstitious, and you had a chief of the tribe and stuff. And when he died, a lot of the riches was very good.
Yeah, but he said, keep them crazy sons of bitches out of here.
I've heard stories about excavated Indian mounds and stuff like that having Spanish silver and
They did.
silver that had been beaten into other jewelry and things like
And
that.
gold coins bent in half for some reason.
I found a pendant, a gold pendant, and I showed it to you, the gold pendant off one of the funeral masks. And this was 22 karat gold. And you were the one who told me normally they're 8 to 10 karat gold.
A lot of that was, yeah.
So that aged mine, because the Indians smartened up and started watering down the gold, and because the Spanish were taking it all.
That's right.
So
Well, the Spanish really looted, didn't they?
yeah, and then they sue. They want the stuff back that they stole.
Yeah.
That just doesn't make sense to me.
Well, the big fight over with the Hillary Clinton deal, Odyssey had, although a lot of people say they were lying about it, maybe they did. I know they didn't use the real name of the ship, but they said something like the mysterious something or other, just so people wouldn't know what they were going for. But it was the 1804 Mercedes with 500,000 pesos on board. And everything I know about it is they were legally out 35 miles offshore. And Hillary did a favor for a friend of hers. There was a painting in one of the museums in Spain, and the guy was a Jewish prisoner of war, and he said, "That's mine. I own," and he was right. It was his. But the King of Spain was not going to let him have it until Hillary said, "Would you take millions of dollars worth of treasure for it?" And he said, "Sure, I will."
Well, that is really interesting. So we've been on about an hour and a half now. It's about time to wrap it up, I think, because I know, we just, it's time to wrap it up. So let's kind of close it out and say, what's going on with you, Fizz? What you got coming up, and where can people see you other than this Saturday at the Mel Fisher Museum in Sebastian? If you're watching them on the show tonight, you want to stop by and see Terry and Carl, please do, and tell them you enjoyed the show, and stop by and see them. It's a great museum, and you'll get to see some of the stuff that, Captain Fizz and Terry, a lot of that's old hat because they found so much of it. But for us, it's all really cool. But we're just going to kind of close it out tonight. So, Fizz, tell us what's going on with you, what you got working, and when can we hope to see you again?
Yeah, well, the main thing I'm trying to do right now is get back to the wreck of the Conception. It looks like it's absolutely going to happen, and it's probably going to be in April. Meanwhile, I'm going to be doing the hit checking on the Judge Perez in Fort Myers, and they already have a lot of hits they need to go out and blow. So between now and December, on the good days, we'll be out doing that. But if you have any kind of treasure functions coming up or charity things coming up, I do a lot of that. I'll be happy to throw my name in the pot. I'm easy to find. I'm in Facebook jail. Just call me anytime.
If you need to get a hold of Fizz, you can get a hold of me, Treasure Talk or Treasure Tales, and we can get up with Fizz. Yes, he is in Facebook jail quite a bit. He is a convict. We know that, and it will continue to be that way. But that's just the way it is. I myself, I'm lucky that I'm not in Facebook jail a lot. It's, and the only reason I'm not, because I have a great wife that just puts the dampers on me. And that's a good thing too. It keeps me out of regular jail as well as Facebook jail. So we'll be looking forward to, I'm going to get you booked. I'll send you a couple emails here. We'll get you booked for another show on Treasure Talk. I know everybody absolutely loves it. And good. And we'll come and see you on a Saturday, all of us here. So, Terry, what have you got? What are you working on other than a new book?
I'm working on the beaches, of course. And I come down here and it's just so depressing walking out on the beaches, seeing all that sand. And I've been down here, we had our accident on the way down on the 13th, so almost a month. And last 3-4 days, I was down into the Coquina, digging up the orange sand and that stuff. So I'm looking forward to a good year. And I'll be, on Saturday at the Mel Fisher Museum, and I'll be on your program again. And I'm just looking forward to a good year. Every year is a good year down here.
Well, every year we're above ground. When you get to be our age, every year you're above ground is a bonus, for me anyway. And we're looking forward to it. And like I said, we just can't thank you guys enough for coming over tonight. I know, Captain Fizz, you drove clear across the state to be here, and we sure appreciate that. And Terry, you drove well over an hour to come down and be with us tonight with you and Gene, and we just can't thank you enough. I know everybody here just really enjoyed having you guys with us tonight. I think everybody that's watching tonight here on Treasure Tales just been enthralled with all the stories, and they just can't get enough. And so you guys have got some loyal fans out there that's really what it's all about. So I want to thank you ever so much for coming down and spending some time with us. Everybody enjoyed it, and the stories are just magnificent stories. And I think Tim, how do you feel about it?
It's good.
It's just
Yeah.
and Danny,
Just sucking it all in.
yeah, and Rick.
It's an opportunity of a lifetime to hang around with a couple of real professional treasure hunters and learn.
I learned tonight
So.
that when I grow up, I want to be just like Fitz. I really do.
Yes,
Exactly.
you do. You guys, I'm not so sure about.
Well, and you know what if you ask Fizz, what's the key to your success? Rum.
I guess it is.
Well, that's pretty close. It's a reasonable facsimile thereof.
When you're out the treasure hunt, instead of seeing one, you see three. That's just...
That's right. You see a lot more treasure, don't you?
God damn.
My God, look at all that.
A lot more treasure. He said, man, look at that. That's a carpet of gold coins. Wait a minute. Let me close one eye. No, that's only 3 of them.
That's on the 7-inch coil.
Well, I have to tell you, we just had just a magnificent time tonight. It's just been a hoot. I hope you all had a good time spending time with us. We're just a bunch of good old boys that like treasure hunting. And we just hope that you enjoyed coming down and spending some time with us. We want to thank you again. And we hope to see you real soon. And everybody out there that are watching us tonight, we want to thank you for stopping by. I know we ran a little long tonight, but we planned to. And like I said before, all of the build up to this, we were going to turn the camera on and we were just going to let her flicker and go. And actually, we didn't get too irreverent tonight, which is a bonus. Because like I said, cocktails at 6. And now Fizz is going, hey, I got some really baldy stories for you. But that's for another show. And we will definitely do one of those. So we're going to say goodnight tonight. Everybody stop by. Make sure that you stop by the Mel Fisher Museum in Sebastian on Saturday from 10 to 3. Say hello to Terry, shake his hand, and say hello to Captain Fizz and shake his hand. And you get